If you think that dog breeding is easy money, let me give you a money figure. $63,800. That is what 29 puppies at $2,200 each could gross, but gross is not profit. Before food, veterinary care, supplies, registration, health testing, emergencies, sleepless nights, and years of caring for the parents, the money can look much better than the reality. I've raised 29 puppies over 6 years, and today I'm going to give you the guide I wish I had before my first litter. Welcome to my Only Fauna page. I'm a certified wildlife biologist with the Wildlife Society, an author, a career mentor, but I want to make it clear I'm not a veterinarian. So any medical decisions should go through your veterinarian. What I can share, however, is my real experience, the good, the expensive, and the heartbreaking. And I'm happy to be a mentor to any responsible people who want to get started in dog breeding. All right, step 1, know your reason. Step 1 is asking, why do you even want to breed dogs? If the answer is only money or my dog is cute, stop and do more homework. A responsible program should have a purpose. Improving health, temperament, working ability, structure, preserving the qualities of the breed. You're not producing inventory. You're making decisions that affect dogs and families for the next 10, 15 years. Ask yourself 3 questions. What does my dog genuinely add to the breed? 2, can I afford an emergency at 2 o'clock in the morning? And 3, am I willing to take responsibility for every puppy if an owner can no longer keep it? All right, let's go on to step number 2. Start with the right dogs. And remember, full registration is not the same thing as proof that a dog should be bred. Study the pedigree, the temperament, the structure, and the breed-specific disease risks. Use the health tests that are recommended by your national parent club and confirm them through resources such as OFC, CHIC. Be willing to accept the result that tells you to not breed your dog. That decision may cost you money, but can prevent suffering and protect your reputation in the future. Step number 3, AKC registration and records. If you're looking to breed an AKC recognized purebred litter, learn the process before the breeding ever takes place. For a litter to qualify for AKC registration, the sire and the dam generally need to be AKC registered and be fully, you have to have full rights at the same breed, and the litter must meet the eligibility requirements. Keep accurate ownership, birth, identification, health, and buyer records. The AKC Breeder Toolkit can help organize litter and puppy registration. Remember, registration documents establish pedigree and eligibility. They do not replace genetic screening, veterinary care, sound temperament, and honest disclosure. Also check your state, county, and city rules because licensing, sales, contracts, taxes, kennel limits, consumer protection laws vary by every location. There are places across the United States where breeding dogs is against the law. All right, step number 4, understand the real cost. Here is the real world math. I'm very apparent about this. I sell my dogs for $2,200. Now across 29 puppies, that's $63,800 in gross revenue over 6 years, or about $10,633 per year before expenses. Subtract the $9,700 I paid for my 3 fully registered dogs, and the number is already down to $54,100 before years of normal care on a single breeding expense. Okay, now each year's routine veterinary bill, for me, I'm right in the neighborhood of $750. It's a little bit higher in the very beginning, closer to $850. Multiply that number for the numbers of litters you produce, then add pre-breeding examinations, breed-specific testing, Progesterone testing if needed, stud or semen cost, prenatal, emergency C-section fund, you have to have it, AKC and local fees, a whelping box, a washable bedding, heat control, reliable scale, disinfectants, laundry, puppy identification, deworming, vaccinations directed by your veterinarian, microchips if you choose to use them, puppy packs, I do provide those, contracts, and advertising. Now, another cost. You thought we were done. Food. Food is another major cost. I prefer to use Blue Buffalo now, along with products such as Miracle Vet and goat milk of my own program. But supplements and feeding plans should be discussed with your veterinarian. The objective is healthy, steady growth, not making puppies oversized. Keep receipts, track every expense, and do not call gross sales profits. All right, step number 5. Prepare for whelping and the loss. Now, this is the part that many cute puppy videos leave out. During my first litter, I did lose a runt on day 3. Sadly, she never gained weight. That changed the way that I have approached every litter afterwards. Since then, I've watched puppies closely. I've used supplemental feeding during the first weeks when needed, but it's not a one-size-fits-all recipe. Newborn puppies can very quickly decline. An improper bottling or tube feeding can be extremely dangerous. Work with your veterinarian before a litter arrives. Learn what warrants an emergency call and get hands-on instruction and feeding techniques that you may need. Weigh every puppy on a constant schedule. Record the numbers. Observe nursing warmth, activity, hydration, and the mother's condition. And treat failure of a gain as a warning, not something to wait out. Have a regular clinic and the nearest emergency clinic saved in your phone. Ask in advance who handles after-hours reproductive emergencies. A plan made at 2 p.m. is far better than searching for one at 2 a.m. And I want to be clear, I don't know why the puppy passed away and why that one didn't make it. On my most recent litter, if you've been following along for the last 8 weeks, you know that Hope, which I named the runt this time, she was 230 grams. By comparison, her biggest litter mates were 500 grams, double her body weight. I send out weekly updates to any new owners. I give them those weights for a reason, so they can see they're getting weight. But I was very transparent with the people that are taking on the runts, especially in the beginning. There is always a risk with those small ones. Step number 6, build a daily care system. Once the puppies arrive, your schedule belongs to them. You are monitoring, feeding, cleaning, doing laundry, changing bedding, checking the mother, recording weights, answering buyers, and doing it all again. Cleanliness matters, but so does safe temperature control and calm environment. My first litter was born and it was 8 degrees outside and we lost power in the neighborhood. And I was burning firewood just to keep the house warm. I will tell you, organize your supplies before labor starts. From cutting umbilical cords to doing CPR on puppies, I've had to do it. Keep a written checklist so exhaustion does not make the decisions for you. This is also why I tell beginners to start small and find a mentor. Experience does not eliminate risk, but preparation gives you a much better chance of recognizing trouble early. Step number 7, raise confident puppies with a 777 method. Keeping puppies alive is only the beginning. You'll want to help them become stable, confident dogs. I personally use the 777 method to introduce them to safe, positive variety, different surfaces, people, environment, sound, objects, and age-appropriate challenges. Keep every exposure short, controlled, sanitary, and matched to the puppy's development and vaccination status. If you are at all familiar with my process, you know that I'm very strict on biosecurity controls. I make people, if they come over to visit, shoes are off, they wash their hands, clean laundry. But also when I hand puppies off to new owners, they're not surprised, they're not shocked. They've seen so many people that they embrace them. Never force a frightened puppy just to complete a checklist. The goal is confidence, not flooding. Watch body language. Always end on a positive experience. My 777 video, of course, has over 23,000 views. And I'll link it below for anyone's just curious. It's a very short video. Step number 8, choose homes, not customers. Responsible breeding does not end when someone just pays a deposit. I have a waiting list for puppies for a reason. Screen homes for lifestyle, expectations, housing, experience, long-term commitment. Be transparent about health results, known risks. Use a written contract that has been reviewed by laws where you operate. Explain your health terms clearly and stay available after pickup. All right, be willing to say no to a sale. The wrong $2,000 something is more expensive than no sale if the puppy is neglected, returned, or passed from home to home and that puppy ends up dying. Your reputation is built by what happens after the puppy leaves. All right, after 6 years and 29 puppies, my biggest lesson is simple. Breeding can be rewarding. I mean, these puppies are adorable, but it is a responsibility well before a business. My dogs are my family. I love my dogs. Start with health. Prepare for the worst day as carefully as the best day. Keep honest records and give every puppy the strongest start that you can. Some people are surprised when puppies go home from me and they're 8 weeks old and they weigh 13, 14 pounds. That is not a testament to just me. It's a testament to the dog's relationship with me and how they're being treated and being taken care of. That is something that you should value. Also, if you're serious about doing this responsible, ask your questions below or reach out through. I've got Instagram and LinkedIn posted there. I'm happy to mentor people with my experience. Of course, medical questions should go through veterinarians. Subscribe if you want more animal science. I always have animal videos up here. And puppy training. I've trained over 100 dogs and honest behind the scenes lessons. Now, if you will excuse me, the smallest member of our production team has scheduled another laundry emergency. And always remember, no species is ever overlooked.